It's long been the case that companies have needed better information management than they have had, not least to anticipate civil litigation, which I think we'll come on to in a moment. The regulatory context has often required a fairly instant reaction from companies, being on top of their material, knowing what they've got, being able to identify the sources of problems, for example. The UK Bribery Act, coming into force at the beginning of July, adds a very special point to that, and to a wider range of companies who really will need to be able to say, not least because it's one of the statutory defences, that they have adequate procedures in place. That covers a very wide range of things, from audit to HR to other things, but it also sweeps up the information management which many companies have swept off the agenda over the last few years. There are parallels. There's a case called Earls against Barclays Bank, a judgment of His Honour Judge Simon Brown QC. One of the points in which is that, and I paraphrase, companies which expect to litigate must be ready to litigate. It's no good, or at least one can, hand to one's lawyers an unsorted pile of electronic documents and say, there you are, the evidence is in there somewhere. But if you do, it will cost you a great deal of money. It is likely that evidence will be lost as a result, and a company can hardly complain at the size of its lawyers' bills or at the system which requires disclosure if what they're really doing is having their lawyers do their information management for them in a hurry and at their hourly rates. So the same pressures are applicable to whether you're looking in a regulatory context, a civil procedure context, or indeed for the ordinary management of a company, where one would reckon that they'd like to be on top of the ever-increasing piles of information that they've got. I don't think we want to get into particular products, but the general impression, the general... can we stop that one again? Sorry. I don't think we want to get into particular products, but what companies really need to be doing across for a wide range of reasons is to get rid of the information that they really don't need. An information retention policy is more than merely saving space. It's making sure that, for all sorts of reasons, including privacy and data protection, for example, one has the smallest feasible pile of documents within one's vast, ever-growing collection, to find those things which matter, whether it be for civil litigation, for regulatory reasons, or indeed for the ordinary conduct of business. The first point is that it affects all commercial organisations. Relatively few companies are regulated. There's obviously the pharmaceuticals and the energy and the financial area are those which one primarily thinks of as regulated. But the Bribery Act affects any commercial organisation. Clearly some are more at risk than others, but that doesn't necessarily march in step with their size. It depends where they do business, with whom they do business, what kind of business they do. There's also a much wider jurisdictional reach, in that any company that has a connection with the UK will fall within the arm of the prosecuting authorities, and that's why we say that the Bribery Act will affect a much wider range of companies. I think companies will adapt. The Bribery Act attracted a great deal of publicity, and I think rightly so. It's important not to overreact. I think there will be many professionals who will be seeking to claim that this is the new millennium bug, that everybody must drop everything and focus their attentions on the Bribery Act. That's not necessarily going to be so. It depends, as I said earlier, on what your businesses are. It depends what your starting point is, because if you've already prepared for other areas of compliance, the number of steps you'll have to take to be ready for the Bribery Act will be relatively small. Perhaps the stumbling block is going to be the competition for resources, as we come out of recession, as we hope we are, other claims on demands on the resources that companies have got. That's a risk management exercise like anything else. One weighs up one's priorities, one weighs up the cost, one weighs up what the risks are, and decides where to spend one's money. My prediction is that a wider range of companies will realize that a bigger proportion of their spend and their resources is going to have to go on the information management aspects of compliance.